everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Superman and Lois, Season 1, Episode 15. It is the season finale, and it is titled Last Sons of Krypton. So, full spoilers for the episode, and indeed the full season at this point. Apologies, this review took a little bit longer again this week. I did just go solo on Stargirl to get that out quickly, but it felt weird to book Connor just for the finale after having done the entire season, so we waited until Connor was free. So here we are.
Yeah, I mean, my work schedule's a bitch right now.
Yes. So, but we're here. We're going to talk about the wrap up to the season, the big action climax, which a good portion of this episode is, and some of the dramatic payoff to some of the relationships that have been building throughout the season, which for the most part I think it did a neat job of utilizing the connections between characters for some of the big drama moments, as it were.
Yeah,
it's
pretty straightforward with everything it does, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, in particular, I mean, I'm kind of talking about how the brothers feel about each other, how the parents care about the two boys, and like, we've talked a lot on this show and just in general whenever Superman comes up about the idea about believing in Superman being such a core factor that kind of tugs at the right heartstrings. Something about Superman and his wife, Lois Lane, having to like sort of believe in their sons for them to be strong enough to like get through something where it's not in their control anymore is actually kind of a neat flip, given that they have been just as equally focused on this season. So
yeah, definitely. And they kind of make that point of this is kind of what we've been training for, so to speak. We've got to face up to it at some point.
Yeah, so big stuff. A lot of big. I thought there was some nice visuals in this episode actually during some of the action sequences.
I thought pretty much all of it, barring the volcano, looked quite good.
Volcano looked a bit rough at times, although it's very biblical looking, so I suppose I'll forgive the intent. But I'm thinking like because later on when Steel and Superman finally beat Edge, or the Eradicator, I should say, when the hammer hits him, like the entire top of like the cave and the mountain above the mine just like explodes away, and you just got to see the sky appear. And I thought, oh, that's actually a really neat visual. It was quite quick. Cool. It was quite quick, but it looked pretty neat. And there's a couple other moments like that. Superman flying through like various major cities on the planet looking for Jordan. And
he just like quick lap of the world.
Yeah, so this is some neat. Not so much that they've been shying away from it, but they definitely had some money shots in their finale, as you'd expect.
Yeah, it's pretty normal for most of these sort of shows to kind of save a little bit of cash to splash on some fancy little shots here or there at the end.
Yeah, so obviously the big plot beat is that Jordan's been taken over with Edge's father. He's still in there. They very smartly flipped this into, well, Superman and Steel have to go fight Eradicator and the new batch of soldiers that he just kidnapped. Which they did remember that they're not from Smallville, so they're not actually good candidates, so they're only temporary, but that's okay because he just wants them for temporary reasons. But it gives us a good reason as to why we're not necessarily worried about these permanent 6 Kryptonian-powered individuals.
Yeah,
forever.
That would be quite problematic.
It would be a serious trouble. But that was set up, so I didn't feel like a cheap retcon.
No, it's been like half the season we've known about this.
Yeah. So what's neat about it though is that it means that Lois has quite a big mission herself, which is to try and snap Jordan out of it. And I thought the line where she sort of compared it to like helping him with his like illness throughout his whole life, I thought was a neat way of kind of connecting up what he's been all season and like her role as his mother.
I think it was especially important given that most of the season Jordan's been paired with Clark and John's been paired with Lois. Just by the nature of powers and not powers. So this here kind of it being like Lois knowing what to do, despite that it being the the powered one. I think it was nice to have that moment.
Yeah, and obviously it gives us this thing where John has to be trusted with this solar weapon that Steel gives him. Which I did pop a little bit for the little joke where John gives him back all the weapons he took. and John Henry's not expecting the pile.
Yeah, a little bit more than anticipated.
Yeah, although I feel like he should know how many weapons he had. So
I think the point is here he just has that many weapons he didn't notice.
Okay, sure. I feel like that's something you should keep an itinerary of because you don't want them falling into the hands of random children who are around or something.
Probably good advice for the future.
Just something that occurred to me during that. Even as funny as it was like, you should probably know how many weapons and keep track of how many you're missing.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of good little character beats in the first half. If you remember last time, where after Jordan was taken, John told Sarah to run off and get her parents. So we actually get kind of the other side of that, where she comes back with her parents and they help Sam out the car and John's there. And there's a point here where she says, why would he take Jordan? And the look in John's face of, oh, I can't tell you that. I know exactly why he's taking Jordan, really, but I can't tell you.
Who knows? Could be anything.
Yeah. In fact, let's get the number one complaint about this finale out of the way. Kyle's not dead.
They bait and switched us as well. They played it.
He could have died. Yeah, there was a moment where he's going to die a hero. He's going to save people on the street. He's going to regain the family honor and then die.
No, they had to do the heroic walk out of the fire.
He still has fairly early death written all over him. He feels like a character who you could kill at any point and it would work for the show. But clearly we're not quite there yet, unfortunately. I was hoping. I really was.
Season 2, episode 1.
And it's not even that he was that annoying this episode. In fact, because he was just running around trying to help and do what he could, he was actually probably the most bearable he's been the entire season.
I think it helped that he didn't have a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, he's just running around, being action man. He's just okay, let's help Sam deal with the crowd. Let's help all the civilians as there's chaos happening. It's just simple running around and doing things.
Yeah, pretty much.
It works. It works. So yeah, everyone's shitting themselves. The crowd, the town are all coming and badgering Sam. But what gets me about all this though is that they keep sort of wanting to know if they're in danger. But I'm like, once you know you're in danger, it's not because Sam keeps saying you go home until we tell you there's no danger, and well, is there danger? And I'm like, we're dealing with superpowered Kryptonians. Being in their house is not going to protect them.
I think their reason for wanting to know danger is they can leave Smallville, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just go somewhere else. And they're assuming Edge isn't going to track them all down individually.
Yes. Well, I get why Sam's saying this, don't get me wrong. I get why he's trying to keep people calm, because everyone being in a panic is just not good for anyone. But all I'm thinking is that all these people are demanding to know is just going to make them panic. That's it. There's no good outcome from them finding this out, even though it would be the truth. That's all I could think during this whole segment was... Yeah,
pretty much. It's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it?
You're just not going to freak out. What are you going to do once you know you're marked by evil Kryptonians? You're just going to cry and scream and run and possibly, I don't know.
This is small town America. They're probably going to get a shotgun.
We'll see how that goes for them with a bunch of Kryptonians.
I'm not going to say it's going to work. I'm just saying it's probably what a lot of them will do.
Yeah. So obviously they concoct this plan. There was a bunch of mumbo jumbos to why, but Steel's hammer's got to hit Eradicator from a great distance. It's got solar power something in it.
Reasons.
Just go with it. So I was like, okay. And, John Henry gets his big moment where he kind of does this selflessly, knowing that he's going to fall to his death probably, because he's not left enough power in his suit.
I appreciate that he didn't, mention that beforehand. He just kept on going. He didn't tell, Clark as it was happening, because presumably Clark would talk him out of it.
Yeah. Superman obviously just catches him as he's falling. Well, that was actually the other visual I really liked, is the shot of Steel falling through the sky from the upper atmosphere looked really good. It was a really nice
that was
shot. Because you had the sort of the I don't even know what you call it, but the air breaking around him.
Yeah, it's the air resistance stuff, isn't it?
I thought that looked really good. Just as an overall visual, it was quite nice.
Mm.
So Yeah, I mean, they win. Edge is back to being Edge at the end as well, which I guess makes some sense. They got rid of the Eradicator, so he's back to being him.
Yeah.
We'll go with it.
Still a Kryptonian, right? With all that memories and what that entails,
Presumably,
which is still interesting.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up popping back up later, like some other new villain's going to like sort of bring him in as his henchman later on, or team up with him later on. It wouldn't surprise me since they've left him alive.
Yeah, that's very possible.
Yeah, I could totally see that happening now. And Leslie Lar's still alive as well. She's she was locked up anyway throughout the episode.
Yeah.
She had like a little speech with Lois where she got all intimidating, but other than that, like, that was basically her for the episode.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's a very straightforward episode. There's not a lot of big twists or surprises. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but I think the word I would use to describe it is quite safe.
It's fair, but I don't think I necessarily wanted something that was less safe for the finale. If the whole show had been kind of just mundane and by the numbers and safe, and then the finale was equally mundane and safe and by the numbers, I think that'd be a fair point to make. But I think because it has been doing all these interesting things, the fact that it just gave us a nice, happy, like action-packed finale to wrap things up, given all the things that it has been doing that have been quite surprising all season, it's actually almost refreshing just to have to beat the bad guys and win.
I think I hesitate to say complaint, because again, I don't want this to sound that negative, because I did like this episode, is that we've said 3 or 4 times over this season there have been episodes that felt like, oh, that could have been the end of a season.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
And I think I enjoyed some of those more than I did this, where it had more going on.
I would agree. I think what makes this feel like the true finale, if we want to like debate that, is basically everyone having something to do, and some of the emotional payoffs. Primarily, the moment where Jordan kind of like breaks out of the control, when the sort of the emotional version of the main theme plays as we're sort of like cutting through all these like memories from the season. I thought that like felt like oh, here's this relationship we've made you care about for the last 15 episodes, and here's kind of it paying off, and like that's been what pulls him back in, because obviously at this point he's holding up John by the neck, as
while flying. Floating. But
yes, I thought it was very interesting as well that it didn't just drop to the ground when he regained control. They slowly came back down.
Yeah, this didn't just immediately switch off.
Yeah, which tells me that he's inevitably going to have flying abilities in him.
Likely. You could still, if you really wanted to, you could get out of it and swerve it and say it's the same as everyone else that was with the Eradicator, where it just gave them the full power set. So it just gave him the full power set. It doesn't mean he will always have it.
No, but we're always expecting him to get the full power set eventually anyway.
I mean, yeah, but if for some reason they want to go, well, we don't want to give him this one or that one, and they just showed it us now, they can still,
sure,
get out of it if they want
but
to.
I want to point out, though, that those other people, when we joked that they should have fell to their deaths, and it was kind of like fobbed off as, like they gained that, they had still enough, immunity until they landed. But they still fell and landed. Like they didn't just.
Yes, whereas this was control.
Yeah, this was a gentle coming down landing. So I think that is worth pointing out, and could be a sign and a tease of the future. Yeah. I fully expect him to get more control over his powers in season 2. I don't know how many of his powers. I don't know to what extent, but I do expect it to advance. And some.
I wonder if we do the Smallville thing where we'll have an episode a couple in that'll just be like, here's a new power.
Possibly. I could see him being a case of like he flat out gets his, I don't know, like something he's already had kind of, but now he can control it. Like now he can like control his freeze breath, or now he can control the heat vision, or now he can whatever. Because he's already kind of gotten control of the super hearing to an extent.
I would say, yeah, he's kind of got that one down.
Yeah, he's maybe not like an expert at it yet, but he's he can sort of he's called upon it a couple of times. He's used it.
Even this episode, he like subconsciously, he's not like actively focusing, but he hears his dad shouting for him.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think it's more just a case. Again, that is it's one of those things where you're attuned to hearing your own name, right? So you notice it more. But even on that scale, I assume that means he's got some level of control over it now.
Yeah, and that was a big plot detail for an episode, so it makes sense that that's still being adhered to as we go forward. So yeah, but that was probably the big emotional beat of the episode that really worked. And then them all hugging afterwards.
Yeah, and I think it is a testament to the show. You mentioned this relationship that's built up over the 15 episodes. That was what we were most worried about coming into this show. Was two teenagers, like by quite a margin.
And we said that in episode 1, we were surprised that it felt very much different, and then we've said it probably every episode almost since.
Right, but then we're here where that is the emotional crux of the episode is them, and that was what we were most worried about at the start. I think that's that's a win for sure.
Yeah. And this episode does the thing where the main conflict is resolved about 2/3 through, I'd say, and there's a lot of coda action for this as a finale, which is fine. You've done a 15-episode story, you want to give all these ending threads.
Yeah, it's reasonably common to do this.
Yeah. So I guess we'll talk about a bunch of those. Really good scene, I thought, between Lois and Steele. So they're at Kyle's barbecue, and everyone's all happy and having a good time. And he makes it very clear that, obviously there's no beef with Superman anymore. He's obviously an ally to them, but when she says, hey, you can stick around, you can help Clark with the farm, and then you can go be superheroes together, he says, nah, I can't. And makes it pretty clear that, he knows that she's not his wife. This is not his Lois. He's not confused by that, but it doesn't change the fact that every time he looks at her with Clark, it's like, I just see my wife being happily married to someone else. With a family.
Pretty reasonable, It's one of those things again because he's very aware, logically this it shouldn't, but it's got to hurt.
Part of my favorite thing he says here is, take care of those boys, and it was something I thought about earlier on in the episode. Is when Jordan was in peril and Steele was fully on board with the plan, and they were debating what to do and how to find him, and there's even that moment where he's like, the AI says, hey, I've looked for, Jordan Kent and I can't find him. Shall I keep looking? And he's like, yeah, never stop. I love the idea that because he thinks he's lost his daughter, more than that in a minute, but because he thinks he's lost a child, particularly a child that was also Lois's child, that he has this relation to, as soon as one of the kids are in trouble, he is so determined to help with that. So this line at the end when he's saying this goodbye, he's like, just make sure you take care of those kids. Even though they're not his kids, he has no, specific. If anything, he's actively dislikes John, a lot of the time.
I'd say that's a little harsh.
I'm being hyperbolic for the sake of the joke, but
not by much, admittedly.
Yeah. So I thought that rung true to me. It made a lot of sense based on their history, and it's not awkward after Lois hugs him and says, "Okay, I get it. Let's go have something to drink."
and he's maybe got a job lined up.
Yeah. The DEO is wanting him because Sam's being a family man. He wants to stop being an active member of the military and
DOD, not DEO.
Sorry, DOD. Hey,
that's super cool.
That's a fair slip. Come on.
Look, too many acronyms. I'll allow it.
There's multiple acronyms that are basically just the same government bodies, both related to super characters. I'm just. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, DOD is a real thing, but that doesn't change it.
In this scenario, yes.
So, but no, I thought that was good stuff. And obviously the big cliffhanger, which is funny because I actually was getting ready to critique it because as the cliffhanger, because he's saying goodbye to everyone and they're on the farm and they say, oh, there's something coming. There's something coming towards the farm. And it sort of looks like a little ship. And I went, this is the exact same cliffhanger as season 1 of Supergirl. What the hell? And then it dawned on, but then I realized before it was revealed who it was going to be. I went, okay, no, this is different enough because of who it is, because we've got context. Could it have been, right? Yeah, I was like, okay, this is his daughter who's somehow found her way to this Earth, and but I think what they played with this so well is that they reminded us of her during the episode, or at least in the previous one, if not the episode itself. Is obviously she has this big emotional moment with her dad. She's hugging, and of course I'm thinking, she's going to notice Lois, and she's not going to understand. And of course, that's the moment we ended her saying "mum," and like, oh dear, this is going to be,
it's particularly clever having done this right after the moment between, John Henry and Lois, of the just looking at her and just seeing his wife. That now we've got someone else who's got to get past that, and it's going to be potentially way worse.
Yeah, and obviously it's not only do you have, you're right to point that out, because he struggled to get over that, and still isn't, like, he understands it, but he still can't deal with it. He still can't be around it, and he's a fully grown man who's had time to process it. Now you've got this, teenage girl, I think she still is, arriving here, and this is her mother who she saw die on TV. I love the idea that John Henry now is the one who's going to have to get in the middle and say, no, you have to, like, seriously, I need to explain this. Understand, it's not really your mother. You're going to have to let me. Yeah. Him being the one to have to sort of break that to her is an interesting dramatic point.
And how do they play it after? Because obviously John Henry's kind of, like I say, I won't say gotten over it, but he's able to process it and deal with it, professionally. So, he can have a civil relationship with Lois at the very least. I'm not sure if Nat's going to be able to, or if it's going to be almost a near hatred because of what she represents.
And what's she going to think of her kind of brothers, which they aren't really, but you know what I mean? Like, in a weird way, they're going to sort of play like that.
They're as close to half brothers as you can kind of get without actually being half brothers.
And then the other side of all this drama is that Lois did have a miscarriage and was going to have a daughter named Natalie. Now, obviously, doesn't take a lot of explaining to say that the daughter she was going to have with Clark would not have looked anything like this Natalie who's appeared in front of them. But you can still see it in her face. It's still stirring up these weird emotions that this is kind of like the daughter she lost as well. So there's kind of a two-way thing here between her and the kid. And it's, there's stuff to play with.
It's going to be real interesting stuff to see.
Yeah. And then Clark's just sort of standing there like, well, this is complex. I don't even know how to deal with this. How do I process this? This is not my daughter that I lost. This is another man's daughter, but clearly my wife's got an attachment to her, and like, how do I process that? There's a lot of weird things going on.
And understandably, they just some behind the scenes stuff. They upped the actress who plays Nat to a series regular.
Not surprising.
For season 2, so not surprising at all. But it does just tell us we're going to get.
And Joe, it's so good
a reasonable amount.
What's so good about her, I think, being the same age, give or take, as the boys, is that we're going to have them have to take her into school and like try and integrate her into like life, presumably, and I think that has potential. It's like, I don't know how they try and explain it. Like, this is our cousin or something.
It's usually cousins, isn't it? That's the go-to TV excuse.
And what is her attitude with them? Like, I'll just kind of alluded to that, but yeah, I'm like, is she going to kind of hate them in a weird way? Because, like, you're not really my mother's children. I'm my mother's child.
Yeah.
Even though she's the one who's separating from another Earth. Like, I can see there been a lot of weird, and all understandable. Like, none of it feels forced.
And it's the sort of thing I would expect to, obviously, this will grow and change over the season. That will be in a presumably healthier place by the end.
Yes.
Much like John Henry. But yeah, there's going to be some drama from this at the start of the season for sure.
Yes, and I'm kind of intrigued by it. I'll give credit where credit is due, and I think this is the reason why I'm not like annoyed. But not that I'd be annoyed necessarily, but I would sort of like, let's say this was just an okay show, kind of like some of those other CW shows, and we had this cliffhanger. I'd go, okay, that's something to do next season. Hopefully it's good, and that'd be kind of my extent of my thoughts. But because they've handled so many of these weird character connections over the season, and the emotions between them, and the believing each other, and like coming over their initial prejudices in cases of like John Henry and stuff like that, I'm actually excited about how they handle this character suddenly thrown into this mix with everyone, just as they've all kind of come to peace with each other, and we're at this point. So
definitely on a lesser show, I don't know, take Flash for example. I'd be seeing this at the end of the season and be going, oh god. I can see the melodrama.
If this was Flash, she'd be trying to have sex with Jonathan by like episode 3, and that'd be opening a whole new can of worms.
Yeah.
You're kind of related. No, we're not. Well, hard to argue with that.
Yeah. I mean, well, if they did some DNA testing, there would be relation. Assuming that there
Presumably.
shared DNA
Yeah,
across the multiverse.
presumably Lois would have the same DNA as Ella, but maybe not. Maybe
Possibly, but I'm going to work on the assumption that she does for now, because otherwise this gets way too complicated.
This is my wife's daughter from a previous relationship, technically. I'm just trying to imagine, like, I don't think they're going to actually say that this is Lois's daughter in the context of the public, but
the best part, it's not even previous relationship, it's alternate relationship.
Alternate relationship, yes. But she never cheated on Clark. We need to make that clear.
Yes.
That was never a thing. We kind of glossed over. Superman makes a big speech on the... No, it's not on the news, they're live. It's just been recorded for, presumably, the Gazette website, I imagine.
Probably, yeah.
But, yeah. Who Lois now owns half of. She because they sold their old place, she's somehow talked Clark into letting her buy half of the newspaper so that they can...
I mean, Lois owning a paper is like the least surprising thing ever.
Oh, of course, yeah. This is the most... Hard just be able to be a journalist next season and just rolling with it.
Publish whatever the hell she wants. It's like, yeah, obviously.
And they did the whole thing with the town coming together to clean everything up and they're protecting each other, which obviously Superman references in his speech. I think the key thing for me is that I don't think next season they can have Smallville be the thing that's in danger again. I think it makes sense to do it in season 1, it absolutely does. But I don't think Smallville itself can be the place that's in danger every season. Like, I think that has to be different next year. But obviously here it's totally cool to do it the first time.
Yeah, definitely. Like the whole point of the show at the start was, moving to Smallville. It feels natural that there are threats there. The only surprising part is they didn't bring the threat with them.
Yeah.
I mean, Clark indirectly did, I suppose, but not in the same way that you would often expect.
He brought the threat with him when he arrived originally, not really this time.
Yeah, that's why I said indirectly.
Yeah. So, yeah. What else we have? We had a scene with Sarah and Jordan, where she reciprocated the "I love you," and they kissed in a field, and it was all very sweeping and romantic, and that was pretty much it. But that's okay because they did such a good job with this pairing over the last like half dozen episodes. It's fine that there was no time in this episode to give them an arc just for the last episode.
Yeah, it's one of those where leave them in a nice place so that when she learns about some powers, she can be all upset.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that happens next season. And there's so many ways they could play that, like seeing him with powers, or does he have to save someone in front of her or herself? Of course, is the obvious way.
We already had that moment earlier in the season where she was suspicious of stuff. Now, after the events of what's just happened with him being abducted, she might start, just like keeping a closer eye because things are not adding up, and maybe she can, sleuths it out herself.
I think, I would trust them to do something where she is like annoyed or mad or even scared of him for a little bit, depending on the context of how it comes up, right? But nothing would be more refreshing than her either figuring it out and already kind of making peace with it and being cool with it to the point where she's kind of anticipating when he finally admits it, or just being cool with it. Like, I guess what did I want to compare it to? I guess the more recent Spider-Man movie kind of did a neat thing with MJ.
I haven't seen it, sorry.
Well, I mean, mild spoilers for Spider-Man Far From Home, I suppose, before I referenced the scene directly, but there's a scene where he's trying to tell her he likes her. He's like, I've got something to tell you, MJ. And she goes, yeah, no, you're Spider-Man. Which is, obviously it's funny because that's not what he was going to tell her in the first place. And he's like, wait, what? No, that's not what? and her logic is sound because all of a sudden Spider-Man started showing up where they are in Europe, despite the fact that Spider-Man has been entirely New York based up until this point. Like,
yes, it's not suspicious at all, is it?
Her deduction is completely sound. Like, of course she's smart enough to make a reasonable guess of this. But yeah, but she's kind of like just cool with it. Like, she's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Basically, we're saying we don't want the Smallville reactions.
Yeah, and I think in the context of this world where they're already used to Superman existing, like maybe being like overwhelmed with like how big of a deal it is, sure, but jumping to being terrified and scared doesn't make as much sense in the context of a world that's had Superman and Supergirl, might we add, for a long time. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think there's a lot of interesting way. I think that's probably what interests me more than anything else is handling it in the context of a world who already is used to having a Superman versus a Smallville where he's the first of his kind. No one's expecting this, so it is probably terrifying to see someone shoot fire from their eyes and whatever.
Whereas they've all seen Superman doing that for years, probably for Sarah, her entire life at this point.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you know, it's every day. So
Well,
don't worry, it's not every day to see it up close because it's made that clear over the season.
With Lana, yeah.
Like, you know, having them there was, you know, unique and overwhelming for them, but not alien, to use that word.
Yeah, so you know, I almost anticipate a moment like when he does reveal powers or uses powers in front of him. Like I almost expect like kind of like a realization, like once she's over the initial shock of like, wait a minute.
She starts putting it together.
Like, you know, just like, why do you have powers? Wait, who's your parents? Wait, oh holy shit! Like just like I can see the chain of the thought process kind of kicking in at that point. And that leads us, of course, to our most anticipated moment of the show, which the one good thing about Kyle still being alive is that he might find out that his wife's ex is the most powerful man on the planet.
We just want him to be emasculated. It's not too much to ask for. And then die.
And for the record, the reason why we want him to be emasculated is because he comes across as a bit of a toxic masculine douchebag a lot of the time. Yeah. Obviously, he's presenting much better by the end of the season, but for a lot of the season, he was a douchebag.
They keep trying to tell us he's not. Like when they had the moment with the woman in the fire station last episode, being like, "Oh, you were the one who stuck up for me," and they tell us that he's a good guy, but we don't see a lot of it. We see a lot of him being an angry, shouty, annoying man.
Yes. Honestly, the true test of season 2 is if they can give us a plot for Kyle that actually doesn't turn them into just what season 1 Kyle was, and we actually get engaged with his plot. That would be impressive.
If they manage that, this would become one of the best written CW shows by default. I mean, it probably already is.
Yeah, I was going to say, arguably already kind of is, but
it would. Well, it would have a considerable margin above the others.
Yes. So that's good stuff. Yeah, John looks like he's dating that girl now. He still looks at her while they're playing. There's some bookending this episode. They're playing Injustice or whatever.
I think it was just Mortal Kombat with some of the DC characters, right?
Well, there was a Mortal Kombat vs DC, but that was like a 12-year-old game at this point. So I'm going to assume because Scorpion or Sub-Zero was a bonus character in one of the Injustices, that it was probably that.
Was it? Okay.
Just because that's much more recent, so it just makes more.
It is. I was just thinking. I'm sure there was some Mortal Kombats with just some DC characters as like extra DLC, not a full crossover game though.
I don't know if there was. There was a lot of horror characters as bonus characters for Mortal Kombat. I don't know if there was. That. I think Joker was in one, but I don't think like there was Superman.
Maybe not.
I could be wrong though. I mean, I'm not a big Mortal Kombat guy, so I don't really pay attention. But
me either.
My guess would be Injustice 2, but
it probably is.
Yeah. So, yeah. There you go. Is that it? Is that everything? Oh,
I think so.
If I've missed anything, it's because the finale, it wraps everything up and then it has all these codes. So that's kind of the interesting stuff to talk about. And to be fair, it's not like it's been a short discussion. There's so much meat to that final reveal, and this new character who's going to be a fixture now that should add a lot of interesting dynamics to the show. So, I mean, it succeeded in tantalizing something for season 2, giving us some big action payoffs. It's just not this show's best episode, but it's also not its weakest episode by any means either.
No, it's perfectly good. Above average for most CW shows by far.
There is one big thing we've not talked about. The funeral, Jor-El's funeral scene.
Oh God, yeah. That was really good.
That is really good. Yeah, because obviously this happened where Edge smashed the crystal, so there's no hologram Jor-El anymore, and obviously it's been a couple of, and there's more concerning things going on. But Clark, after everything dies down, goes to the fortress and like picks it up and puts it in a box, and it's just really sad. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of sweet. And then Lois and the boys surprise him with like a makeshift funeral, which she makes the boys dress in black suits for, which I thought was really notable.
Clark's just there in his, plaid shirt or whatever it is.
Yeah, it was like a light blue shirt, and everyone else
Typical
is like
Clark
dressed in
farm wear.
And he sort of like he empties the box and sprinkles the crystals into the earth, and talks about how he didn't know who he was, and he had all these questions until he met him, and even though he knows it's not the real person, he knows it's like,
but it's the only thing he's ever had.
Yeah. Well, of Jor-El, he had a father too.
Yes, I meant specifically, with him. Yeah.
Let's not lose sight of Jonathan Kent here, especially since the other son's named after him.
Yeah. Which one of the boys is older?
Oh, well, the twins, but I assume you just mean
by minutes or whatever.
I can't remember.
I don't know if we know.
I think we do. I feel like there was a line about it back in like the pilot where one says, "Technically, I'm older," because
you might be right.
Because every set of twins ever, the one who's a few minutes older has to rub it in that they're the
lord
elder.
It over them for the rest of their life. Yeah, yeah. I'm just intrigued. Which father's name got priority?
I mean, if they knew they were having twins, I suppose they still have to just sort of like pick like whoever's
Choose
first
which
gets
one
this
gets
name.
which.
Yeah. You just toss a coin when they both come out. To see who gets what.
You look more like a John.
I mean, I know they're not identical twins, obviously, but I feel like when they're babies, they probably did look quite similar.
I mean, don't nearly all babies?
Yes, but I imagine more so when they're literally from the same set of parents at the same time.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
You look at Jordan, you look at Jordan. They look identical, honey. I'm sticking by what I said. Do you have any other reason to swap them? Well, not really. Well then, that's John, that's Jordan. That's how we're doing it.
So I know enough sets of twins. I should speak to one of the parents. But how do you decide which one was which? I want to know.
That's a good question. Like how's it picked? Maybe they just. I mean, maybe they just decide that. Yeah, I guess that gives like they decide ahead of time which is one and which is two. So that's just whatever order they came out. That's what they're getting. Unless you're having, I suppose, different. Because obviously some twins can be different genders. So I suppose in that case you would, if you've got one boy name picked out and one girl name, you would just assign.
Well, obviously, I'm just assuming that. I mean, it's probably easier to take identical twins in this scenario. And you've got two names, and
Yes.
you've got them ahead of time. You know you're having twins. You've got your names picked out. How do you decide which name you give to which one? Do you go right? Whichever one comes out first is this one, or do you look at them and decide between the two of them?
Well, that scene in the Dark Knight where Joker like breaks a stick and says, "We're going to have tryouts." you get two babies.
No, they do. They leave it a week each and see which one has the personality of which name.
You put cards, like little business card style things, in the middle with each name, and you just see what baby goes to which one. Let them decide.
Oh.
And maybe to add some real stakes, you make one of the names really bad. So that person's going to have to just live with their failure for the rest of their life. That when they were.
So do you do paired names? Like, do you go on a theme, or do you get one good name and one bad name, and one of you is going to be the favorite child?
One is going to be something like a Jim or a John, and then the other one is Sphincter. And Sphincter is just going to have to accept that he picked the wrong card for his whole life.
What if it's a case of each parent gets to pick a name? How do they decide which baby is theirs? Like, they go, no, I want that one.
I mean,
I want that one for my name.
The fair thing would just be toss a coin, like, and decide that the first one, heads mine's is first, tails yours is first, kind of thing, and let it be up to random chance. Right?
Sure.
That would be the fair way of doing it. And then there's no favoritism.
I feel like we might be overthinking this.
I mean, how do you even? I mean, even if you're like one of what, 3, right? You got 2 brothers.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I do.
How do you even decide at number 3? Because by the third one, it's not special anymore. You've already plopped out 2. Like, I don't know. What's your younger brother's name? Your youngest?
Brendan.
Why did you have to think about that?
Well, you said youngest. Oh, so I was like, which one? Like, yeah, just a second.
Brendan. So yeah, I just imagine going, what do we name this one? Brendan? Yeah, that sounds alright. And then that's just
at least like with me and my brothers, there's no particular family history behind like the first names. It's the middle names where like I've got my dad. The next brother has granddad. It's like I don't even know what the youngest middle name is, because they're obviously like, well, we're out of names at this point. We've run out of people that we were going to give them.
Pick someone on the mum's side of the family, I guess.
I mean, maybe. I don't think they did, though. Which I'm almost certain they didn't. So I don't know what they did.
No, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying this, that the conversation, they were having at McDonald's for dinner, your parents says, and they said, what do we call this third one? And your mum went, Brendan? And your dad went,
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, right. What's for me?
Probably.
And that was it. That was it, set in stone.
Pick generic Irish name.
Don't say that. People are going to think you're Irish, and like the people who can't recognize accents.
Irish family, so all our names are. Yeah.
Yes, but very English in terms of actual nationality.
Yes. Although, I mean, I could apply for Irish nationality if I wanted to.
You want to?
I mean, maybe. I would then have a European passport. That sounds quite nice right now.
I don't know. do I get into Ireland as a fellow Celt?
I don't know. Why you ask?
Does Scotland and Ireland have like a brotherhood that can be exploited for?
Why don't you let Boris build his bridge, and then who needs one?
Oh dear, that has been our Superman and Lois finale with 5 minutes of nonsense at the end. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Let us know what you think of the season, the finale, and all the rest of it in the comments below. Yeah, so I am looking forward to season 2, which I suspect we might get like earlier than we did this season next year, just because of the weird timings of everything, because of pandemics and whatnot.
It really just depends on their scheduling, doesn't it? Like how they want to schedule their content next season.
At worst, I would say this will be starting at the start of the summer. I'd say, kind of where it did. Well, it was actually even earlier this year, but then they had so many breaks that it lasted so long.
I would predict it would be a mid-season, like a January, February start. Assuming that I'm assuming CW are going to be back to their traditional start of October,
which would be quick. Like, given this is only just ending now, mid August, that would be a quick turnaround to have the season starting. And assuming it's again another 15 episode, not a full 22 style thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a quick turnaround.
But the filming break is probably not too dissimilar to just doing a regular season and having your summer break.
Oh, probably. And so Tom Cavanagh directed this finale, by the way. It's not the first one he's directed, but I just noticed it as I was looking over at the site, so I thought I'd mention it.
He clearly did a perfectly decent job.
Yeah. I have no real complaints from a network TV standpoint, anyway. So there you go. That's the Superman and Lois finale. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments. Like and subscribe and ding the bell for notifications. All those things help out YouTube channels a lot. So if you want to support the content and really help us out, hit the buttons, make comments. All of it really does help. You can, of course, support us financially over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses for your trouble. So if you want to support the content that way and keep it all coming, you can do it over there. Otherwise, catch us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. But that is pretty much it. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?